Picture yourself in the Ardennes forest. December 1944. The temperature has plummeted to -15 degrees Fahrenheit. Your leather boots, soaked through from days of slogging through snow and half-frozen mud, have become instruments of torture. Every step sends daggers of cold through your feet. You can no longer feel your toes. Around you, men are being carried away on stretchers, not from German bullets, but from an invisible enemy that attacks from within, frostbite and trench foot. In the bitter winter campaigns of World War II, more soldiers were lost to cold weather injuries than many would care to admit. But those who survived knew something that separated them from the casualties, a simple boot trick that military quartermasters had refined into a science of survival. The World War II boot trick wasn't a single technique, but rather a disciplined system that began with understanding moisture as the ultimate enemy. Soldiers learned that wet feet in freezing temperatures could destroy tissue in hours, not days. The cornerstone of the method involved carrying at least 2 pairs of wool socks at all times, one worn, one drying. Before sleep, a seasoned soldier would remove his wet socks and immediately place the dry pair on his feet, then tuck the wet socks inside his uniform shirt against his chest or under his armpits. Body heat would dry them overnight while he slept. This rotation system sounds simple, yet it saved thousands of feet from the surgeon's saw. The wool itself was critical. Cotton would hold moisture and freeze, but wool maintained insulation even when damp, creating tiny air pockets that trapped warmth despite the cold trying to steal it away. But, dry socks meant nothing if your boots became saturated leather sponges. This is where dubbin entered the survival equation. Soldiers were issued small tins of this waxy concoction, a mixture of animal fat, beeswax, and sometimes cod oil, that transformed porous leather into a water-resistant barrier. On quiet evenings in dugouts or farmhouse shelters, men would gather around whatever heat source they could find, warming their tins of dubbin until the mixture became soft and pliable. Then, using bare fingers or scraps of cloth, they would massage the grease deep into every seam and surface of their boots, paying special attention to the stitching where water loved to infiltrate. The process was methodical, almost meditative. A properly dubbed boot would shed water like duck feathers, keeping the interior dry for days, even in constant wetland conditions. Veterans of the Eastern Front, where Soviet winters could drop to 40 below zero, would apply dubbin so religiously that their boots glistened with protective layers built up over months of campaign. The most ingenious adaptation, however, came from desperation and observation. Soldiers fighting in the frozen forests of Belgium and Germany discovered that wrapping their feet in newspaper or waxed paper from ration packaging before putting on socks created what modern outdoorsmen would recognize as a vapor barrier system. This thin layer prevented sweat, the body's own moisture, from soaking into the socks and freezing against the skin. The paper trapped warmth while keeping dampness isolated, a crude but remarkably effective solution born from the field, not from any manual. Men who adopted this technique reported keeping their feet dry and warm, even during forced marches through knee-deep snow. These weren't mere survival tips traded around campfires. They were hard-won knowledge written in the suffering of those who learned too late. The lessons of World War II boot care translate directly into modern wilderness survival and cold weather preparedness. These days, bushcraft practitioners and winter hikers actually employ the same principles: moisture management, layering systems, and protective treatments for footwear. The Dublin of yesterday has evolved into modern waxes and waterproofing compounds, but, the principle remains unchanged. Understanding that survival often hinges not on dramatic heroics, but on disciplined attention to small details, dry socks, waterproof boots, warm feet, is perhaps the most valuable lesson these soldiers left behind for those who venture into harsh environments today. If you value the hard-earned wisdom of those who endured history's harshest conditions, subscribe to Fieldcraft Chronicles and, share this video with fellow history enthusiasts and survivalists. These stories deserve to be remembered, and these skills deserve to be preserved.